podcast. This is our second episode this week. We have a really exciting guest coming on later in the show. Ryan Copeland is the NIU baseball head coach, so we appreciate him taking the time out of his day to come on and talk with us. I know he's got a lot of really good insight for us and for the parents and families as well to take in and try and understand and learn from. So I'm excited to have Copeland on to talk to him. But before that, we're going to talk through some commitments, some baseball news, some fall tournament winners, and then, as usual, our prospect of the week. But, yeah, really excited for this episode. I think last week's episode, I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I'm really happy with how it turned out. Our first one, kind of getting back into it with this new branded podcast. So I'm excited how it turned out, and I'm excited for this week, too.
Well, I'm probably doing better than most people on this call. My Pittsburgh Steelers, I don't mean to brag, are 7-2. I know you three are on the struggle bus a little bit with the Bears, but I don't know if you guys need to have a vent session or anything before we get this thing started.
Sundays are no fun anymore. I had my hopes up at the beginning of the year to hopefully watch a team continue to get better as the year goes on, and they kind of had us tricked there earlier on in the year playing Jacksonville and some of those easier games. But, man, it has been a tough couple weeks. Don't love it. Hopefully something changes. And I just want to see a team that gets better. That's what I'm looking for.
I agree. Yeah. And actually, I think that our next guest for today is a perfect person to have on after all these Bear struggles, because I follow Copeland on Twitter. And every week, every Sunday, he posts the bear emoji with, the down emoji. And it fires me up every week. I get excited. I like it. I'm excited for a really good game, hopefully. And then it just has been a disaster these past few weeks. So I'm sure Copeland has some thoughts on that as well. So I think we got some questions for him about the Bears. So I'm excited to see what he's got on that as well. But
getting back to kind of what you thought of the first episode here with the revamped name, the bullpen and everything. Look, we're going to continue to try to get better too, right? Like we're learning as we go here, and we're going to try to lean on these guests. We're lucky to have a lot of special guests, hopefully coming through the next couple weeks, and we can ask them some insightful questions and get some feedback from our audience, like what we did with Coach Copeland for this interview. So I'm excited to see how this goes, Gavin. But yeah, hopefully we can keep improving and get this thing ironed out here.
And Drew, actually one thing that I forgot to do last week when we were talking about this new podcast, and I actually kind of want to turn it over to you really quick, is we named the bullpen obviously because it's baseball related, but I think there's a little bit more kind of like company ties to it. If you want to kind of give us like a brief introduction to what that was.
Well, I think when we were first talking about revamping this podcast and wanted to come up with a unique name that was, strictly for the Prep Baseball Illinois crew, because there's a lot of different podcasts going on around the PBR Prep Baseball landscape right now. We're tossing around ideas, and I think Pete threw out some names, and one of them was the bullpen, and it stuck with me. I immediately was like, oh, man, that might have to be it. Because back before 2020, back before COVID, we were in the office there in the Max. And a unique setup. Some of us had like a little cubicle style desk, but there was a table in the back that some of the newer workers would sit at, kind of like the overflow area, if I'm just being honest. And we called it the bullpen. Sean Duncan had labeled it the bullpen. And it was just kind of something we always would talk about. And for us to now kind of circling back, be able to have this podcast, name it the bullpen, brings back great memories, because we no longer work in the office there. We're all kind of on our own, doing our thing from home now, ever since that COVID. But no, really good memories from the bullpen and back there in the office, being with Sean and Steve Nielsen and Matt Yarber and Chris Jelinek. Get some shout outs there from people that used to work in the office.
Yeah, no, I that's awesome. I just wanted to bring that up because I thought that was something that was super unique and something that I really liked about the name of this podcast. But anyway, kind of getting into our first segment here and moving on. Commitments around the state. I mean, these past 2 weeks, really, we've had some really, really big time commitments with, the number one player in the 2025 class, Cam Appenzeller, going to Tennessee, flips from South Carolina to Tennessee. TJ McQuillan, a 2026 prospect. He's one of the top in the class as well for the 26s, going to Wake Forest. Ethan Moore flipped to Tennessee. Connor Essenberg flipped to Kentucky. So some really big names in that 2025 class that have flipped, and then 2026 class has had some commitments come through. Actually, quite a few from the Illinois State games committed to Division I schools as well. So throughout these past couple weeks, we've had 10 Division I commitments in the state of Illinois that have been sent to us. So really, really cool to see. Super happy for those guys. But I don't know if anybody wants to jump in here and maybe talk through some of these guys quickly.
I can get in there, Gavin, unless somebody else has anything. But it's been interesting to see the last couple of weeks with those 4 high-level names that you mentioned to start, kind of flipping commitments. Not totally sure the exact reasons for all of that happening, but they are very, very good prospects now that are going to new landing spots. And all of them there in the SEC except for Wake. But man, Wake Forest has got a heck of a program going down there over there. And big left-handed thumper that went to Wake Forest out of Illinois in the past was Bobby Seymour, and he's having a ton of success right now in the Rays organization. So it looks like Wake Forest is coming back to Illinois to get another left-handed thumper in TJ McQuillan. So that's probably a good idea on their end, because I know that the Bobby Seymour had a great career at Wake Forest, and TJ McQuillan's well on his way to being one of the more prolific left-handed hitters in this area in the Midwest, and who knows about the country. But I thought that was interesting. And then just right off the top, the 2 lefties that I see here, Zane Caves and Blake Hoffer that you mentioned. Zane Caves finds a commitment at Michigan State. Blake Hoffer's going to Illinois. 2 left-handed arms. I think we've talked about this. We talk about it a lot with our rankings calls, and how do you value or how do you weigh position profiles? Catchers, middle infielders, first baseman, right-handed hitting outfielders versus a center fielder, corner outfielder. Left-handed pitchers are always, in my opinion, and the longer I've been doing this, the highest commodity. They always jump off the board the quickest. Everybody is always looking for left-handed arms. I don't know if you could ever have enough. So not shocking there to see those 2 guys, get plucked by Big Ten programs. Zane Caves is an interesting one for me. We've talked about him on this program before, but multi-sport guy, which adds to his intrigue as a prospect, but did not come out to anything in the winter. We didn't really see him in the spring, and popped up for us in the summer. Tyler saw him at a tournament up in Wisconsin there, checking out some of the better programs in the area, and Zane Caves was throwing. And I remember him texting us that night, like, hey, or G-chatting us that night, like, hey, this Zane Caves guy is really interesting. The body's as good as it gets, like 6'5", 6'6", 6'7", long levers. Plays basketball, plays multiple sports, like I said, but was really spinning the breaking ball for Tyler. And, I mean, was a high follow from that point on. It was just the velo, and Tyler, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it was more like 82, 83 that day, but was really pitching. And just at that point, when you talk future games and invites, that velo was probably just a touch light. Especially for a guy that we didn't have a ton of history on. That was our first time seeing him. So I don't know if he's been, 85 in the past and now he's down to 82, 83, or if he's been to, an event in the past and he was 77 and now all of a sudden, that was 4 months ago and now he's 5 mile an hour harder. And just being able to track that timeline that guys are on is huge for us. But needless to say, or I guess getting to my point here, is saw him in the summer, invited him to the state games, did not get the invite to the future games, comes to the state games, and I see him throw. And that was my biggest takeaway, just watching him. The velo had gone up from when we saw him earlier in the summer. It was more like 85, 86. It's a little bit of a unique delivery, the way the ball comes out. It looks like the fastball even plays up higher than that. And I'm watching him, and just the way the body looks on the mound, how he gets down the mound, how he controls his levers. It's a guy that definitely, could have belonged at the future games. And that's what's so great to me about the Illinois State games is we're going to miss guys. There's going to be the guys that fly under the radar. We can only bring about 22 uncommitted, that class, the rising sophomores going into their junior year. We can only bring like 22 of those guys. So there are a ton of good players that need to be seen, and that's why I love the Illinois State games so much, is Caves goes there, and who knows when Michigan State saw him. Maybe they saw him in the summer. Maybe they saw him at the state games. I don't know. But we got to see him there, and a lot of other schools got to see him there, and regardless, if Michigan State saw him there or not, it's going to help his price, right? Like it's going to help his offer because other schools now are going to be in the mix, trying to get him on a visit, whatever it may be. And if a Michigan State or somebody else wants to lock him up, now they have more competition to get him. So really happy for Zane Caves. Blake Hoffer, same way, left-handed arm. We saw him throughout the summer, was kind of a fringy follow future games. Came to the state games. We liked him, but I think he's a guy that just continues to get better, and the sky's the limit there. And Illinois is going after left-handed arms, and you can never have enough of them. So those were just a couple takeaways I had on those two guys, Gavin. And I know there's a few more that maybe we want to touch on this list.
Yeah, I'll just kind of list them off quickly. There's only a few more. Ryan Duncan committed to Illinois State. He was a future gamer. East Peoria kid. Matthew Steinberg committed to Manhattan University. Drew Stevens committed to Valparaiso. And then Derek Holmes just this past weekend committed to Mercyhurst University. But looking down the list, kind of Division II, we had one commitment. Division III, we had 14 commitments. NAIA, we had one. And then junior college, 16 commitments. But continuing with that, the state games, we've had over 100 commitments. A lot of kids have gone to Division I schools. We've had 25. We've had 48 junior college commitments, and that makes sense. Just looking around at a lot of the coaches for that state games roster is they're coaching the state games teams. But honestly, just wanted to give a big shout out to Lakeland. They have committed the most players since the event concluded. They've had 7 players commit to their program, so that's really cool to see for Lakeland. I know they've gotten a lot of arms recently from the state games, especially within these past couple weeks. So I think right behind them is Kaskaskia. They have 6. So yeah, awesome stuff there. But I don't know if you guys want to mention anything with any of those guys or any of those other schools and programs that have been committing kids, but
I'm just going to give a shout out to Lakeland. I love to hear that they're attacking guys that were at the state games. And for those that know Julio Godinez is the head coach at Lakeland over there, we run a scout day in the fall with him, but he's always been a huge help at the Illinois State Games. We have junior colleges come to the event and help run the workout day, whether it's throwing BP, hitting fungos, helping change a blast sensor, and then they coach a team or two during the event, and they're in the dugout. They're helping with lineups, just making sure guys are getting to where we had them set, and coaching third base and getting to know these guys and helping the energy of the event. And Julio's always been like one of the top guys that we have every year. Brings his assistant as well. I know Gabe Black has been here multiple times to the event with Julio, but that's great to hear. They help. They're a huge help in the event, and then to be us hopefully helping them see players and get commitments out of it. That's what it's all about. So wanted to start there, and then I just wanted to shout out Drew Stevens. He has been a long time PBR guy, and Tyler, I think you mentioned it. We were getting ready for the call, and Drew Stevens and Derek Holmes, I don't want to steal your thunder, but they were junior future game participants for us way back in the day. And I just get done talking about Zane Caves, and we see him in the summer for the first time, and we don't really know what trek he's on, where he's at in his progression. And a guy like Drew Stevens, it is clear as day. You go to his profile, and I was doing it, and you look, and we have the timeline. His first event, he came to something in 2021. I'm not going to blast out his numbers from that event. Let's just say he continues to get a lot better every time we see him. And that is what I try to just impart to these players when they come to an event. It's not about who you are right now at this present moment. Like, it is about getting better every day and seeing where the chips fall, when you're all said and done. And I think Drew continues to have plenty of ceiling left, but you break down what he's done every year coming to events, and the numbers continue to improve. I'm looking at his pop time. I'm looking at his catcher velocity. In 2023, he was 69 from the crouch with a 2.22 pop time as his best and an 8.07.60. You go to 2024, he's all the way up to a 77 from the crouch. His pop time's down to a 2.02. He ran a 7.53. And that was at the Illinois State Games. And that was even improved from the winter when we saw him at the preseason All-State, where he had increased his catcher velo by 2 miles an hour. He had trimmed his 60 down from a 7.68 to a 7.53. So really happy for him. Lands at Valparaiso, Division One in the Missouri Valley. Really good. That's a really, really good conference. And I think by the time he gets to college, like he's not going to be the same player he is now. Like he is going to continue to get better. And besides the skill, like I think we all agree, like Drew Stevens is one of our favorite guys. When he comes to an event, when we've had him at the junior future games, when we have him at the state games, always has a smile on his face. Just a team guy, coachable, like just who you want to be around. And those are the guys I want to shout out. So that's what I had on that, Gav. And
Yeah, and
Tyler, I
Drew,
know you may want to follow up, but yeah, what do you got, Gav?
sorry, Def, if you have anything, but with Drew Stevens too, like just seeing on social media too, if you watch the things that he'll post, I mean, he's always working out. He's always in the gym. He's always trying to get better. So that's awesome to see. And I remember actually at the junior future games when he was in, I guess, 8th grade, he mentioned something about coming back to the future games, and he said, either way, whether I'm there or not, I'm gonna keep working. I'm gonna try and get there. And I think that just kind of goes to show what he has done throughout his high school career so far to get those metrics better, become a better player. So that's awesome to see for Drew. But Tyler, getting into some baseball news, I see you've got a few things in here that happened this past weekend or this past week that you want to kind of talk about.
Yeah, first off, if anybody's been following it, but Roki Sasaki is going to be posted by his team in Japan, and why that's a big deal is by most people in the baseball world, this guy's like better than Yamamoto, who came out last year, who's on the Dodgers, just won a World Series. Like he's also very young. I think he's only 24, 25 years old. But this essentially makes him one of the top free agents in Major League Baseball for this winter. It's basically like him and Corbin Burns are probably the top two arms on the market. So we'll see what happens there. The unique thing is he doesn't have enough service time over in Japan to get like a 9-figure deal like Yamamoto got this past offseason with the Dodgers. So you're looking at something where he's only going to be able to get like a few $1 million per year, kind of similar to what Shohei Ohtani got when he came over with the Angels. So just wanted to throw that out there. And then also in our neck of the woods, White Sox finally got their manager, Will Venable. I remember Will Venable used to play for the Padres when we were younger. So he was with the Rangers for a little while, coaching for Bruce Bochy. So we'll see what the White Sox can do with the new manager at the helm. Obviously, they kind of need to change how they operate and run some things from an organizational standpoint to make that even matter. But just a couple baseball news there for you, Gav.
Yeah, so moving on now to our fall tournament winners. Last week we just did our fall event winners. We got Peter Hammond on here, our assistant scouting director in Illinois and Wisconsin. And for those of you that have been up to the Rock in Milwaukee or down in Rantoul at their big sports complex there's a very good chance that you've seen Peter. Peter runs our tournaments in Illinois and Wisconsin, so he's always at those tournaments, getting our staff there and making sure that we're seeing the right guys. So, Pete, I kind of want to turn this section over to you quick just to kind of maybe talk about some of the fall tournaments we've had or even just some of the guys that you've seen that you really like.
Yeah, no, I love the fall. It's not like the biggest, most intense tournaments, but it's solid. It's like a lot of the guys that really love baseball are there because, a lot of football players are during that time. So it's a lot of the grinders. But for me, one of the first kids that stood out to me was Howie Porath. We saw him, was that the Chicagoland showcase at Ozinga?
Yep. Yeah, the Chicagoland Fall ID. Yeah, and it was actually just after the PBR Fall Championship took place at Kokomo in Grand Park. And I got a brief look at him there, but then I think he followed up, and you might have seen him up at the Rock. Is
Rantoul.
Really where he stood at. Rantoul, okay.
Mm-hmm. It translated into game. Like, the kid is just a hitter. Super hitterish look. The bat to ball is well above average for the age, using the whole field, on time, can see spin. I really think he's going to continue to hit. And then one of my another big winner for me was Nolan Ramley. I saw him at Grand Park. Now that's a kid that has just been trending up over the past however many months since the future games. Really, like he he kind of took off at the future games, hit a home run, showed well, and then he just continues to hit. And that was kind of not a worry, but like there was some swing and miss, and that was what he needed to work on the most, I would say, is polishing up at the plate.
Well, and Pete, I don't want to jump in here, but I'm going to. I
Go
don't want
ahead.
to cut you off because I think this is the beauty of a guy like Nolan Ramley, and we don't have the luxury of this with every guy, but we've got to track a lot of at-bats on him. He was a high-level guy that came to our showcases in the winter, really stood out because he's a physical freak as far as the tools, the frame, it's as high-level tools as we have in the state. So, okay, it's a showcase, right? Like, it was super loud. Now we need to go see what's real. He's playing varsity for Brother Rice, and I think it was an up-and-down spring. And we saw plenty of his at-bats, and I think the one thing was, like, exactly what you're getting into there with the offense. Was there some swing and miss and just pitch recognition and, kind of being in between on pitches, taking the fastball down the middle and swinging at a pitch out of the zone. So we were undecided. We were like, we still need to see more. We need to see more. And he's a guy, because of the tools, because of, what he brings to the table and the ceiling, you're going to need to see that until it fails, if that makes sense. Like you're going to watch him as many times as possible and give him as many chances as possible to learn, how to hit and how to see spin and how to make good decisions at the plate. And it really impressed me at the future games because I thought he was on fastballs. He was on velo. He turned around that arm from Missouri in our very last game in his first at bat. It was like 91, 92, and he turned it around in a hurry for a foul ball. So the velo is not going to be the problem. Like he's going to be able to handle velo. For us, it was, man, we need to see the total package of a polished hitter. And it has really, really started to trend that way. I think it's a confidence thing. I think it's, who knows what it is, but that's what I started seeing at the future games. And that's what you're getting into the fall here is it's only getting better. And I just wanted to give a little backstory there, kind of how we go about it with some of these higher level prospects. And then you can continue to touch on what you saw this fall. But yeah, just wanted to get in there. So thanks for letting me cut you off.
No, I think that's perfect, and I totally agree. I think it's confidence. Like he just looks more confident in his at bats. But no, I think that kid's ceiling is super, super high. And yeah, he's got. Oh man, I would not be surprised if he keeps moving up the rankings when it's all said and done, and he's towards the top even more, just with his ceiling. But then sticking with Grand Park, Lucas Grant was just an arm that I really liked, and he's an arm we've liked for a while. Initially popped, at least for me, at the state games 2 years ago, I believe it would be. He was like low, mid-80s, maybe scraping 85, with a ton of sink, really good changeup, good breaking ball. We're like, oh, nice arm for JCA, and then he just kept going up. Velo-wise, pitchability-wise, and he was every bit of 87, 89 at Grand Park with a good slider, and we've seen him even firmer than that in the past. But just looking at some of these other names on here, Cash Van Houten, or Van Houten, I'm sorry if I butchered that. He's just a name that is like every time we're in Rantoul, Cash is there, and he's dominating and doing his thing. Real two-way prospect. Gavin, I know you probably want to get in there on him, but I just love seeing that kid play, and it seems like he's always doing it in front of us too.
Yeah, the thing with Cash, he's just a gamer. Like I think every time that we see him in the summer, in the fall, he just does it well. He does it in game. I saw him pitch at the fall tournament that I was at. He threw like a complete game. I think he ended up winning that game if I remember right. And yeah, he did because they won that tournament too, and it was in the championship game. And I think the weekend after, Pete, you saw him do the same thing in the championship game. So at the plate too, Cash, he gets hits. He's an athletic hitter. I like how it looks in the box from the right side. I think he can play all around the infield and the outfield too. Like he's just an athletic kid that he just loves baseball. He loves the game. He plays hard. He plays the right way. He runs the bases hard. You can tell he's competitive. and he just wants the best out of his teammates. He wants the best out of himself. So I love watching Cash play. He plays the game how you draw it up.
And he'll give us a reason here this spring, Gav, next spring in 25 to go watch Canton, Illinois, to watch Canton High School here to see what he's all about as the future games follow. And he checks a ton of boxes. He's got a lot of good things going for him.
Yeah, Pete, and actually while I'm on Cash talking about that, I don't know if you had anybody else, and if you did, my bad for cutting you off here, but at that same tournament that I saw Cash at, I saw Dominic Panazzo, and he was not someone that I had personally heard a ton on. I know that he was a name that we kind of talked about in our rankings calls and just he was a guy that we were trying to see because we had not seen, and we had heard some updates about him that maybe his velo had gone up or something like that. But anyway, so I get to Rantoul, and at this tournament that I was at, it was like an 8-team tournament. It was a smaller tournament. I didn't really know what to expect, but the championship game, I see Cash Van Houten versus Dominic Panazzo. Dominic Panazzo was uncommitted going into that game. The following day, he committed to Illinois State. But at that tournament, at that game, he was 89 to 92, up to 93. He showed a really sharp breaking ball that was 77 to 81 miles an hour, and he was a little spotty with command, but obviously the velo's there. He's a power arm, and he goes on and commits to Illinois State the day after. So I'm sure he had some schools contacting him previously, and he was kind of maybe had his list of schools, but sounds like the day after, Illinois State was a school for him. So that was cool to see. And obviously Cash Van Houten, who we were just talking about, I didn't mention this, but he's a 2027 that is up to 90, and he was, I think, probably upper 80s that game. I can't remember if he touched a 90, but for an 8-team tournament in the fall in Rantoul, that was really cool to see in the championship game. But if anyone else has anything to add to Dom Panazzo or Cash, feel free. Drew, I think you might have something.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you said it perfectly there for just a fall tournament and a guy like Dominic Panazzo to pop up. And, I mean, he topped at 93. That's a big number there. That's kind of like the old 90 used to be. Like you see 90 all the time now, but you don't see a whole lot of 93, 94 still. So that's a big number. But what got me, because I was not there at that event, you're letting us know about Dominic and the talent and whatnot. But when you put out the video and you see the breaking ball with that velo, it's no wonder why Illinois State's taking a shot at that. Like, that looks like a back end wipeout type of guy, a guy that can come in and snap off a couple big time sliders and then have 93 behind it. So really interested to just see what his future is for Dominic there, because he is a guy that we have not gotten a ton of looks at over the last couple of years due to injury and maybe some other factors. I'm not totally sure there. But no, I think that was one of the biggest takeaways from the fall. So impressive stuff there from Panazzo.
Especially that time of year, like to be grabbing 93. I wonder what he was in the summer. Like, usually the fall is kind of like arms are getting tired, arms are getting dead, everything's starting to kind of die down a little bit, and to still be grabbing numbers like that, yeah, that's pretty, like Drew said, that's a big number, especially for the time of year. So interested to see what he's going to be this spring.
Yeah, we'll have to check that out again, because at Bishop Mac too, you've got Callahan O'Connor as well. Really talented arm down there. So they got two arms that could make some noise for them.
Yeah. And another kid at that event that I saw, and I saw some good talent throughout that weekend, but just another guy that I wanted to mention is Ryder Annette from Dunlap. He is a 2028. He was a name I don't think he was someone that I had really heard a ton about, just being a 2028. I don't believe he had been to any events or anything like that, but coming to this tournament, he was on that Wow Factor 2028 team, and I loved the way that it looked in the box. He's a left-handed hitter. It's super loose. It's fluid, and he just has that loose wrist, easy swing. It's not intentful. He's on time, and he collected a couple hits throughout the weekend, and he played up the middle too for that Wow Factor team, and he just has the actions. And being a 2028, I don't really care about if he has crazy power or anything like that. I like that he was an athletic kid. He's left-handed, and he had some feel up the middle too. So he is definitely going to be one to watch for me moving forward here in that central Illinois area. And Dunlap has produced some talent throughout the past couple of years too. But go ahead, Drew.
Yeah, just what I love about the way you explain him is he's 2028, so he's nowhere near what he's going to be physically down the road. But at that age, we're looking for, okay, kind of like the fundamentals, right? And how does the swing work? And you mentioned like loose wrists and easy. And to me, that's a really big thing for these young guys. Like who can create bat speed and do it easily, maybe even in a smaller frame. Because that tells you they understand how to like leverage their body. And a stiff shoulder swinger that's just kind of more physically advanced at that age, like to me they don't project as well. But a guy like Ryder Renette, who's athletic with those loose wrists, and he's only going to get more physical, that swing and the way that ball is going to come off the bat is only going to get better. So those are the guys that we're really looking for and really trying to project on. And like I kind of mentioned earlier on in this call, like it's not about who you are right now as a player, especially a 2028. But we are looking at, okay, this is where you are, and this is how your body works. This is how your swing works. This is your foot speed. Then we can project on, hey, here's where we think you'll be in a few years, and then beyond that in college and so on. So I like the upside, I think, is where I'm getting long-winded there with Ryder. I really like the upside with him being a left-handed hitter and the way that swing works.
Yeah, and speaking of left-handed hitters, I'll hop in here. Anthony Chavez out of Mount Carmel was maybe my favorite bat this fall. I just feel like he's really starting to come into his own at the plate. Very mature approach for a kid that age. I don't really ever see him chase up there at the plate, and he really seems like he goes up there with a plan. And it's, hey, if I get this pitch, I'm hacking. And when he makes contact, it's loud. He's got a ton of pop. So really like Anthony. I really liked him this spring when I saw him. I think I saw him once or twice this summer, and it's another kid who just continues to get better. And then one of his teammates, Logan Fernandez, another guy out of Mount Carmel. This kid is really, really toolsy. Just some numbers of what he did at our state games this summer. He ran a 6'4", 160. He was 87 from the outfield and had a 97 mile an hour max EV. He's long been a toolsy kid. I think what's encouraging with Logan is the actual in-game product is getting better and better. When I saw him this fall, just really loved the approach at the plate. I felt like in the past, there was maybe a tendency to be a little passive up there, and then when I saw him this fall, it was pure aggression. Hey, if I'm ahead in a hitter's count, I'm going to make something happen here. And then in the field, he can cover a ton of ground out in center field. So I'm just really encouraged with Logan Fernandez's overall game.
I have a couple things here just listening to you talk, Tyler, and starting with Anthony Chavez. When we were at the Future Games, I like to get to know those guys in the dugout, have conversations with them. We had multiple Mount Carmel guys there. And I don't know if you were there for that conversation, but we were just asking, like, hey, who are some guys at Mount Carmel that maybe we need to know about? Or somehow it got brought up that their team last year, a lot of the guys vouched for or brought up Anthony Chavez's name as who was like their best hitter throughout the spring. And that's a team that has a lot of good players on it. I know TJ McQuillan was injured for some of the year, but it sounded like Anthony Chavez, as a sophomore, had a great spring for them. His own players are vouching for him. I think that's always a good sign. So that's kind of a shout out to college coaches. If you're looking for a left-handed bat with some juice in there and more to come, Anthony Chavez. And then listening to what you said about Logan Fernandez, like it just reminds me of kind of what I said about Nolan Ramley. When a guy's got that big of tools, when they run that good, and that speed shows up every day, whether it's in center field or on the bases, like you're going to wait and you're going to track as many at bats as you can, to find out if this guy can hit, or will he ever hit, or will it continue to get better, more polished, or whatever it may be. Because, saying if a guy will ever hit, that's probably not the right way to say it. But I've continued to see Logan Fernandez get better. It has been inconsistent. It has been up and down. Like it is what it is, but it's been trending much, much better recently. I've seen less swing and miss, and then the impact that I do see off the barrel tends to be very loud. and he can backspin the baseball. And if it's a true center field profile, there's a lot to like there and a lot to just continue to track.
Yeah, and one thing, so before we kind of move on, I wanted to, Hammett, you mentioned some guys that you saw at the Grand Park Fall Championships. And actually, so we had a podcast maybe a month and a half ago, right after that event, where we talked through, and I believe Josh Fields, one of our Wisconsin guys, was on that podcast as well. And they all talked through guys that they had seen at that event. So if you are wanting to hear more about some of those Grand Park Fall Championships guys, just be sure to check that out. We really dug into a lot of the guys that they saw that weekend, and it was a really good tournament. It always is one of those better tournaments.
Hey Gav, if people are interested in where to check that out, where should they go? Is that a Prep Baseball Illinois page there? Should we send them to the JUCO page? Should we send them? Yeah,
on our YouTube, you can check out our Prep Baseball Illinois YouTube to check out our podcast. But yeah, there should be an article that Hammett had posted right after that event, and they did a takeaway story of all those players from that event. So a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, if anybody's ever, if we mention former articles, stuff we've done in the fall, and you're interested where to find this, just go to the Prep Baseball Illinois page, and there is a news tab that you can click on news, and you can break it down by month. It has all the news articles that we've released. So, for anybody out there that listens, that's curious with some of the more follow-up and written content that we do and wants to read about some of this stuff and not just listen all the time to the podcast or whatever, check out the website. We got all kinds of different articles on there, and just wanted to call that out, Gavin.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. But moving on here now, so we did this last week too. We're calling this our prospect of the week. And again, like I kind of said last week, I think this is a great opportunity for us to continue to shine light on those uncommitted 2025s right now, and I think eventually we'll move on to some of those uncommitted 2026 prospects. But our goal here is to each take one uncommitted prospect, one guy, and just talk about them, kind of give them some love, talk about why we like them, and yeah, kind of break them down a little bit. So Drew, I see you got our first guy here. You're here at the top of the list, so I'll let you break down our guy.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm kind of stealing, a guy that he's been a fan favorite of yours for a while now, Gav. And I've really grown to like him as well. Kyle Beatty at Normal Community 2025. From all indications, he's still uncommitted. I had to triple check just because he's one of those guys at this point in the game, you think he'd be committed. Because he is a high-level player. I'm a huge fan, and he plays up the middle of the field, shortstop, second base, depending on how high of a level he goes. Probably depends on if he can play shortstop or second base, but I like the glove, I like the feet, the arm plays across the diamond, and one of the reasons why maybe his commitment has been impacted is he's a pretty good football player from what I understand. He's a quarterback there at Normal Community. They're still in the playoffs. They've got a big matchup coming against Mount Carmel this weekend. And I do think after talking to him this summer, he might be trying to find a school where he can do both. But I love him. Everything that you've told me about him in game, you saw Normal Community a bunch, tracking down all the arms they've had, and kind of right there in your backyard. But just a gamer, and seems like a great kid that continues to get better. He can pick it on the infield. I really like the swing. It's on plane. It just seems like it's really gonna play. I really like the bat, a high-level bat-to-ball guy that's got tons of feel to the game. Probably can't say enough about him, so curious to see where he ends up, how much football is going to impact the commitment. I just think he deserves a spotlight. He is one of the best middle infielders still out there in the 2025 class.
Yeah, and actually, Drew, with that, just being around some of these Bloomington Normal, in the community, talking with some coaches and stuff like that, just when you're out at games or parents even, whoever it is, a lot of people have a lot of great things to say about Kyle, so that's just, I think more so just as the person too, not necessarily just as the athlete, but that's always a good thing to hear, and you always want kids like that. You always want to see, you want to get the good kid that's, does it right on and off the field. So, yeah, Kyle Beatty, he's a good one here that's still uncommitted. But, Def, moving on to you now for your prospect of the week.
Yeah, my guy is Carter Lennington, backstop out of Manuka. With Carter, what draws me to him is this summer we were at a tournament at Rantoul. I believe Gavin was there. I think P was away that weekend, so me and Gavin were kind of like, along with Josh Fields, we were kind of the main ones down there covering the tournament. And I swear every time we looked over, this kid was either hitting a double or a homer this particular weekend. And it's true power to all fields. Seriously, it was, hey, I'll go backside, I'll go poolside, I'll go up the middle. Just a ton of power. And I think with Carter, what's also really good to see is just his overall game behind the plate is continuing to tick up. So I'll be short and sweet there. That's my uncommitted guy to watch.
Yeah, and then Hammett. Let's. I see you got somebody on here as well.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Luke Yolich from Whitney Young, uncommitted senior. I'm actually watching his video right now. I didn't realize we saw him this summer. I was going to say I haven't personally seen him in a little while, but that's just a throwback name for me that I've long liked. I remember the first time I saw the kid was when Whitney Young was playing Riverside Brookfield. That must have been the regional championship at Whitney Young. And it was Owen Murphy pitching. So one of the best prep arms that we've had come out of the state in a long time. Running 95, 96 up there. Go ahead, Drew.
Yolich was a freshman at the time, right?
Yeah, he was a freshman.
Okay.
He was a freshman facing 95. And I remember there was one at-bat in particular. He fouled off like 5 fastballs in a row, and I was just laughing. I was like, who is this kid? And he's been hitting, it seems like, ever since. I really, really love the bat to ball. The hands are great. And on the infield, too, he's a good defender. He can, looks like he was a state gamer, too. But yeah, the exit velos, the last time we saw him, which is at least over a year now, it was in the mid-90s. I'm sure it's a little better now. But yeah, I've just long liked Luke. Yeah, needs some love for sure.
Yeah, and then my prospect of the week is Brock Fearday from St. Anthony. He's a 6'2", 209-pound right-handed arm. So I saw him at the state finals down there in Peoria, and he threw in the state semifinals for St. Anthony. He threw a 6-inning complete game, allowed 4 hits, and struck out 7. And from that point on, he was just kind of someone that I was intrigued to kind of follow and maybe get some more metrics, whether it's in an event or something. And he actually came to the Southern Illinois Open this past summer, and he was 87 to 88. He had a curveball that was 71 to 73, a slider that was 76 to 80, and then a changeup that was 78 to 81. I just really like the way that he moves. It is very easy. There is not a ton of effort. It's a loose arm, and the frame just looks like there's still more to come, more weight to be added. And with that, the velo and things like that will continue to tick up. But I think he is an awesome uncommitted 2025 to know that I've seen do it in game in a big performance in the state finals. And I know he was a state games kid where he might not have had as much success at the state games. And I mean, it's in August. Maybe he had a long summer of throwing or something. But yeah, Brock Fearday, 2025 uncommitted arm from that Southern Illinois area.
I actually want to hop in really quick on Luke Yolich. He got a hit off Owen Murphy. All right, I just wanted to throw that in there. Thank you.
That's a good nugget to add because not many people got hits off of Owen Murphy in his high school career. And Gav, I love the call out for Brock Fearday. St. Anthony down there in Effingham, and that's just another quality arm coming out of Effingham. They've had a long, long list with the old Jackson Lee, Zach Lee. Mason Hole came out of the Effingham area. He was a shortstop, middle infielder that went to Missouri State. Chad Green's an Effingham arm that pitched in the big leagues, and I know I'm missing plenty of guys down there, but I don't think we can holler or at least shout out enough Southern Illinois quality arms. So like that prospect of the week there, Gav. Good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And then right now, I just kind of want to take a quick second to kind of highlight some of our events that we have coming up in this preseason, our preseason schedule. We released it last Wednesday, and we have, I believe, 8 events throughout the state, multiple events in Chicago. We have an event down here in Peoria in my central Illinois area. We've got an event in southern Illinois. We've got, events scattered throughout the suburbs and in the city area. So be sure to check that out. And to find that, you just go on our website, prepbaseball.com/Illinois, go to the showcases section at the top, and there will be a drop down that comes up, and you'll see upcoming showcases. And if you click on that, you can see each event, and you just find one that maybe works for your schedule or is in your location, in your area, and you can click on the event, kind of dig in, see what you get at a prep baseball event, the technology that we provide, what we'll be doing at that event, things like that. So just check out some of our events we have. Our preseason ID events are a great opportunity for our staff to kind of get a follow list for that spring high school season, and then within that spring season we try and get a follow list for the future games. So kind of like Drew was mentioning before, like use some of these preseason ID events to get in front of our staff so we can kind of create a follow list. Yeah, so that'll kind of conclude today's episode before we get into this interview with Coach Copeland over at NIU. So again, appreciate Coach Copeland hopping on, and excited to kind of dig into this interview with him.
Well, we are joined here today by Ryan Copeland, the head baseball coach at Northern Illinois University, entering his second season with NIU. Came from Illinois Springfield before that, where he was the head coach and an assistant. Also was an assistant at Illinois State. Played at Illinois State. First off, Coach, thank you for joining us. This is something we're trying to do here this fall, leading into next year, is just bring on quality people, coaches, players, high school coaches, anybody that can provide quality insight to the student athlete right now in Illinois coming through, or anybody that's just interested in it. So thank you. I know you got a busy schedule, and we're able to get us in here. So first and foremost, thanks for joining the podcast.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys and everything you guys do for our game and making our lives a little bit easier on the road recruiting.
Well, that's good to hear. That's what we try to do. We've got kind of a flurry of questions coming from all different angles. We asked X or Twitter the other day if they had any interesting questions for you off the top, and I thought in general we got a lot of quality questions from that inquiry, and then we obviously had some of our own as well. But Gavin, do you want to start us off here with just, I know Coach Copeland, UIS, did a lot of really good things there, but why don't you start us off, and then we'll just kind of go from there.
Yeah, Coach, what is your process for evaluating and recruiting players, and what kind of qualities are you looking for in both an arm and, offensive players as well?
Yeah, I think first off, every kid that we end up recruiting, I think we're having conversations with different resources out there. So whether that be their high school coach, their travel ball coach, a member of your staff, a member from a different organization, just trying to get as much information as we can before we actually go out and see them on the road. So I would say when we go, especially in the summer, during that summer circuit, and that's changed a little bit, especially with the high school kids, we want as much background information as we can possibly have. That way, when we get to the field and we actually start the process of evaluating them as a player, we've probably already had a phone call or two with that said, PSA, prospective student athlete. We know about the kid's character. We know how the grades are. We've kind of cross-checked a lot of different people to make sure that somebody that might fit for our program. So once we actually go see kids, we're pretty well versed on everything they're all about. And my coaching staff does a great job kind of vetting me, before we're out watching players. But you're looking for the standout athletes first and foremost. You kind of look up the middle of the field between the catching position, the shortstop position, center field, and of course on the mound. Those are the guys that are typically going to stand out to you. And you gotta use that information as best as you can and try to project where a guy might play at this level. But we're looking for tools just like everybody else. I think it's crazy to assume we're going to have a player coming into our program out of the high school level with 3, 4, 5 tools, but we're hoping we can have 1 or 2 of those and try to develop some of the other ones to turn them into a pretty high level collegiate baseball player and a potential draft prospect. And then on the mound, we're looking for high waisted kids with arm speed, kids that have an athletic delivery that they seem to be able to repeat. The irony of that is sometimes you get a kid that's so uber athletic and they move so well, they can get themselves in some extreme positions, which will, prohibit their ability to throw strikes. And, we know, and you guys know from being out as much as we are, that's the number one challenge nowadays with the arm talent is it's better than ever, but getting kids to throw strikes, compete, and be in the zone with a couple different pitches is really, really hard to find. And those guys tend to go pretty fast. So we're doing our best to put all that information together, project as much as we can, and try to build a competitive roster that can go compete with some of the power fours that we're up against in recruiting.
Yeah, I love that answer. That took me in like 4 different routes that I wanted to go from that, and there's actually some follow-up questions that were along the similar track as you were going. But I want to get to the 11-win improvement you guys made last year, your first year under the helm. And while you're talking about recruiting and guys you're trying to bring in, like, what do you have to do to this roster? What have you already done? You say you look up the middle of the field. Are you trying to recruit as many shortstops as you can and you'll place them wherever when they get here? But just that 11-win improvement and what you guys have going to turn this thing around and get it to where you want it to be.
Yeah, the last year was a good start to what we're trying to accomplish here. And I've told many people this, supporters, donors, our own players, our coaching staff, we need to get to a point in this program where 21 win seasons aren't good enough. And while we've received a lot of credit for what we did this past year, going from 10 wins to 21. In conference, we almost tripled our win total. We finished a game or two out of the MAC conference tournament. Those are things that have to be an afterthought moving forward. But I think our seniors did such a good job last year, and we had 16 guys move on in graduation. Colin is playing pro ball with the Angels. He was a free agent sign. And those guys did such a good job of buying into everything we were trying to do. And, we knew our roster was our roster. There wasn't a whole lot we were going to do from the time that we took over here in mid-June of 2023 until the time that those guys reported back to class. But we had to try to change the expectations inside our program. That starts with me and our coaching staff, trickles down to our players. But I wanted to change the expectations for the people in the state of Illinois, especially the Chicago area. I think Northern Illinois baseball has been kind of an afterthought for a long time. And, a lot of people like to focus on the things that programs don't have and the resources they might be missing. But I like to focus on things that we do have. And we have a facility that's improving every single day. As I speak right now, TrackMan stadium units being installed at our field, thanks to a couple of very generous donors. We have a beautiful indoor facility, and we have a great weight room, great resources in terms of support staff. So we're excited about that, but we have a long way to go. And while we did some good things last year, we need to continue to elevate the expectations of our program from within and from everyone else outside of our program. And we're really excited about the direction we're headed, but we got work to do.
With elevating your program, getting it to where you want to get to, Tyler, I wanted to turn this over to you because I kind of stole your first question. But you had a follow-up question with just kind of the landscape of college baseball now and how he's trying to get to that point to where his team, where he wants them to get to. And there's a lot of different avenues that you can take in today's recruiting landscape with high school, all that stuff. So go ahead there, Tyler.
Yeah, Coach. So my question basically, with that quick of a turnaround, especially in the win-loss column, how vital was maybe the transfer portal to your guys' success last year? And building off that, moving forward, how do you plan on marrying the two, transfer portal recruiting and high school recruiting?
Yeah. So last year when we took over, there was some information that got leaked in May. And we were finishing up our regional, the G2 level. We were hosting for the fourth and 6 years, and we were hosting a regional. We got knocked out, and there were some rumors flying around our program about me and the possibility of me leaving. So we ended up having some exit meetings, later that week after we got knocked out. And the general question at the end of the meeting was, "Coach, I have to ask. I've heard this about Northern Illinois. Is it true?" So right away, you kind of have a choice to make, and I chose to be transparent. And some of the players that we knew we maybe wanted to take along with us, those conversations were had. And we knew there were some incoming commits that we had. Ty Brockbill, Cooper Cone, Caden Jennings, our 3 freshmen that followed us over here in the 2023 season. We were able to bring over Adam Brower, a Chicago Christian kid, ended up being second team All-MAC last year. So we definitely use it to our advantage. With a coaching change, there's always a lot of roster changes with that. So we were pretty confident that we got a little more talented just in the week or two since we took the job. But moving forward, I think you have to really have your ducks in a row. As you guys know, our rosters are going from 40 to 34, and I think we want a balanced roster. I think there's no doubt, especially coming this May and June, the portal is going to be once again going to be pretty crazy, and hopefully we'll be able to take advantage of the trickle-down effect of some of the Power Fours having to cut some of their guys, whether they're incoming players. We've seen a lot of that with the 2025 high school class, or if there are current players that they just don't see that are going to be able to make that 34-man roster, and they come down, they find a new home at a place like NIU, and we're able to continue to elevate the talent pool that we have on our roster. So that being said, we want a balanced roster. We're going to continue to recruit high school players. I think for us, we have an opportunity to end up bringing some talented kids here to campus that maybe in another year we normally don't have. And if you look at our last 2 high school classes, I think they're pretty dang good. And I think we're doing a good job in the state of Illinois. But we want a balanced class. We're going to hit the JUCO stuff really hard, late August, September, October, into November. And then the biggest change for us in recruiting has probably been the summer. I think we spent just as much time last year following around kids in the Northwoods League and the Prospect League. I was at some localized, Chicago summer leagues watching one player, go play 14 innings, and trying to balance that out with the high school recruiting has been tough. But I think we're all trying to adapt with the times, do the best we can. But now more than ever, you want an older roster. You want an older roster. You need a close team. So trying to bridge the gap between high school, JUCO, and portal is extremely tough. But we're all in the same boat, trying to do the same thing.
Well, and to your point on Illinois and getting after it, the high school players, like, it's been evident. You guys have been aggressive. You guys have been locking up some Illinois guys, some guys we're really familiar with, and love to see it. Tyler, I don't know if you had a follow-up thing there that I cut you off on.
Yeah, real quick, Coach. You talked about how crazy portal recruiting is going to be for you towards the end of the year. Who handles that? Is that your recruiting coordinator, or are you working like 20-hour days monitoring the portal and also running a program?
Yeah, we'll check the portal daily, and it's pretty quiet nowadays. You're looking for the random grad transfer that maybe is looking to get out ahead of the recruiting for May. But for the most part, all of our recruiting goes through Joe Kelch. He does a fantastic job, and we want to be aggressive. We want to be the program that is pushing the envelope a little bit. Maybe forcing some other programs into some earlier decisions than they would like to. But Joe does a great job, and so does Calvin Peacock, our pitching coach. But we meet pretty regularly about where we're at in recruiting, and now more than ever with us trying to figure out a way to get down to 34 to best address who gives us the best chance in the 2025-26 season to go win a MAC championship and get this thing right and find a way to get back to the postseason for the first time in a long time. So, it's every day. It's ongoing. It never stops. Sometimes you're on the couch on a Tuesday night. It's 11 p.m. and you just get an urge to go check the portal just to make sure you're not missing out.
that 11 o'clock urge to go check the portal, huh? I don't know if I want that urge. Well, you mentioned something earlier. You brought up a name, Brockbill, and I want to turn this thing over to Gavin.
Yeah, Coach. Ty Brackbill, you mentioned, was a freshman that you had. They came over to NIU with you. And last year, just looking through your stats, it looked like he led the team in innings pitched last year. So I want to know, how do you prepare a freshman to take on a role like that, throwing that many innings?
Well, you really can't, to be honest. I would say Ty did a really, really good job given the circumstances. I don't think it's really fair for very many freshmen to come in and be expected to be a Friday night guy at this level. And he had a really good fall for us. He threw a bunch of strikes. The velocity would continue to tick up. He's a super high level athlete. He's always been super successful as well at the high school level. So we looked at it like we had an opportunity to maybe throw him into the fire, so to speak. and maybe take some lumps along the way. But in turn, we thought that giving him that opportunity to be our Friday night guy as a freshman was going to help him in his long term development. And it was a mixed bag. He had some really really good outings where he did a great job and won some games for us, and he had some outings where he really struggled. And I think that's pretty normal for a kid in his freshman year. But I think he's going to be much better off because of it. But Ty's in a great spot now, had another good fall. You guys probably saw him 88, 89, 90 in high school, and he's ticked up to his last start in the fall a couple weeks ago was 90, 94 for 3 innings, added a changeup, kind of hybrid splitter, and just trying to get him the best well equipped to go be a high level Division I Friday night guy. So I think some of the things he went through as a freshman were certainly going to help him out as he continues his development here at Northern Illinois.
Yeah, there's nothing better than just get thrown in the fire, figure it out on your feet and how to compete, and that's impressive stuff there. Because if I'm not mistaken, like Brockville, he was a UIS commit that you guys had, and yes. You then go over there to NIU, and he's throwing on Friday nights for you. So that kind of speaks to the job you were doing at UIS. We all saw it. It was impossible not to see what you guys were doing there at the D2 level. And I know Peter Hammett, very familiar with UIS. He played at Lewis. Not sure, how many times he faced off against your squads over there. I know you were an assistant coach when he was playing. But, Pete, you've got some questions for Coach. I'm just going to give you the floor here.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Coach, good to have you on. So I I saw firsthand how quickly and dramatically UIS changed when you were handling the recruiting there. So I want to know how